Hey, this is Blake Butler at the Lift Wellness Center, and today we're going to be talking about the importance and an example of a really good dynamic warm-up to get ready to work out for your day. We're going to go through a couple different mobility drills to open up the hips, the shoulders, the T-spine, so that your muscles are ready to have an effective warm-up. First one that we're going to go through is a lunge pattern called the Samson stretch. We're going to take a far forward lunge, interlacing your fingers, reaching high and up over the head, and then right back up, alternating your legs for about 6 reps each side. Now, if you don't have that type of range of motion to where you can get the knee all the way down to the ground, you can easily scale that by going to the range of motion depth that you have available to you. So that may only be a simple quarter lunge, as long as we are feeling that stretch through the quad, through the hip flexors, all the way reaching up overhead. And that's going to apply for all of these lunges that we show you today. Now, I like to alternate back and forth between things that mobilize the front of the hips and the back of the hips. So the second one we're going to demonstrate today is the single leg RDL, where I'm going to find my balance on a single foot, keep a nice tall chest, sliding that foot back nice and long, and driving the hips up and through, and taking a step to the other side, lunging back long, hips up and through so that I feel that hamstring stretch and that glute activation, and just going as deep as you can, not necessarily having to touch the ground, but feeling the stretch through your hamstring. Now, if we're not able to balance and we don't have that yet, then we can simply do a sweeping hamstring stretch, where we put that toe out, reach down as far as you can, sweeping through and driving through that front leg. Toe up, reach down, sweep through, driving through that front leg. The next lunge pattern we're going to do is a lunge with a side lean to open up our lats, our obliques, and that IT band. So we're going to continue the same thing, a far forward lunge, reaching across that front leg, getting this hand and that foot as far away from each other as possible, driving through that front leg. Far forward lunge, reaching up and across, and right back up. Now again, to kind of warm up that posterior chain, warm up your proprioception, warm up your balance, we're going to do another set of those single leg RDLs. Find your balance, slide that leg back long, feel that hamstring stretch, step through. Slide that leg back long, push the hips through. Now these last two ones are definitely going to be limited upon your range of motion and whether or not you can get all the way down to the ground. So these can be scaled with a box if need be. That first one is called Spider-Man stretch. That's got a bunch of different parts. Again, we're going to start with that far forward lunge, taking that opposite hand all the way down to the ground, bringing that same elbow towards that toe, keeping this heel flat on the ground, opening up that posterior hip, opening up that groin as far as you can, reaching overhead to mobilize that T-spine, open up this bottom hip flexor, swapping to the bottom, and reaching up to the other side, driving through that front leg. Again, far forward lunge, opposite hand on ground, same elbow to toe, reach high, swap to the middle, and reach high. So if you need to scale that movement, find a box that's about the height of your knee, placing that foot up on the box, having the back leg far enough behind that I can still keep the heel flat, but I feel that stretch in my hip flexor. Placing the hand on the box, driving the elbow down, reach overhead, swap, and reach overhead. The goal here is to get as much range of motion and feel that end range stretch as you can. Not holding it, but just pushing into that tension and coming out of it. The next one we're going to do is inchworms for our last posterior stretch. That's really going to lengthen out your hamstrings, your calves, your low back, and also warm up your and your core a little bit. So with this, we'll start with our feet side by side, reaching for the ground, walking those hands out as far as you can to the top of a plank position, and without bending your knees, pushing the hips up and walking your feet as close as you can to your hands, and then walking right back out. We'll do that for about 6 reps as well as all of these that we have been doing for today. The last two are down on the ground to kind of loosen up the low back. Not so much a muscle warm up, but really a good stretch for our low back area. And then the last one, we're going to mobilize our shoulders and get those warmed up. So we'll come down to the ground. This one is simple wipers, where I'm gonna go side to side with my hips. I'm keeping both shoulders glued on the ground, knees together, feet glued together. Hips roll all the way over to one direction, and then same thing to the other, feeling that little touch on the ground or as far as you can go, and rotating back and forth for a set of 6. And the last one we're gonna do is gonna warm up our shoulders, kind of open up the middle of the spine as well. Seated back on our heels and on our knees, I'm gonna reach those hands out as far as I can, kind of glue them in place. And I like to imagine there's a fence that I'm gonna try to slide underneath. I'm gonna keep my head as low to the ground as I can, all the way chest flat. Lift just the chest, keeping the hips low, head back down to the ground, pushing the hips back. And this is our press up to a child's pose. So that is our dynamic warm-up that we have for you today, in a way that you can get ready for your workout here at the lift. Thanks for watching.